Have you ever wondered if there's a quieter, more powerful way to become the woman you've always wanted to be? Perhaps you've tried fixing things on the outside, changing routines, seeking external validation, only to discover that something deeper still holds you back. Imagine tapping into an ancient philosophical tradition that has guided emperors and everyday people alike, helping them build unshakable confidence and peace of mind. That tradition is Stoicism, and in the next few minutes, we'll explore how it can reshape your path as a modern woman. Instead of quick fixes or hollow affirmations, you'll learn to nurture the virtues, resilience, and clarity that let you stand firm in a chaotic world. Ready to begin? Lesson 1. Realign your worth with virtue, not appearance or status. In a society that so often measures women by outward success, beauty standards, social media followings, ideal bodies, perfect relationships, Stoicism invites you to step off that treadmill of comparisons and root your self-worth in something more lasting, your internal virtues. Ask yourself, if tomorrow all external markers were gone, no compliments, no achievements to show, no luxury items to flash, would you still feel whole? Stoics like Marcus Aurelius argued that real confidence springs from living in line with virtues such as honesty, courage, and justice, not from external trophies. That shift might sound simple, but it's revolutionary in practice. Instead of chasing applause or acceptance, you focus on nurturing an inner compass that consistently guides how you treat others and yourself. Picture a scenario where you're at a dinner party. Friends talk about fancy cars or career milestones, and you realize you have little to contribute if the conversation is purely status-driven. A Stoic approach teaches you not to fret. You might let them boast, remain calm, and respond with thoughtful questions. Later, you leave, not worrying whether you measured up to their standards. Because your self-measure is, did I act with kindness, sincerity, and courage tonight? If yes, you remain grounded. Rather than craving external validation for your looks, your brand, or your achievements, you center yourself on moral growth. The real gold star is aligning each day's actions with a deeper sense of purpose. Over time, you become the woman who radiates a calm confidence that's unshakable, precisely because it doesn't hinge on outside recognition. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself daily that ephemeral things, beauty, wealth, popularity, are subject to the whims of fate, but virtue is entirely your domain. When you opt to invest in building that silent inner fortress, you reclaim control over your sense of self-worth. You're less rattled by changes in circumstances or by others' judgments, because your worth isn't up for debate. It simply is, anchored in the steadfast practice of living by your highest principles. Lesson 2. Filter your focus. Control what you can, release what you can't. Countless women feel overburdened trying to handle everything at once, from career growth to family duties, from caring for loved ones to maintaining personal well-being. Stoic wisdom slices through that stress with a simple but life-altering question. Is this within my control? If yes, invest your energy wholeheartedly. If no, practice letting it go. This is no indifferent shrug at life's struggles. It's a purposeful refocus. You'll find you have more peace and clarity when you stop wrestling with the uncontrollable. For instance, say you want your sibling to adopt a healthier lifestyle, but they brush off every hint or suggestion. A classic chase scenario might be nagging or feeling guilty for not convincing them. A Stoic approach? Recognize you can't force them to change. Instead, you direct your concern to something within your domain. Maybe leading by example, adopting a healthier routine yourself. If they follow, great. If not, you haven't squandered emotional energy on what you can't control. This principle can extend to daily frustrations, such as waiting in a long queue or dealing with an uncooperative coworker. You can't expedite the line or alter their behavior, but you can decide how to spend that waiting time or how calmly you respond. The moment you accept that external events are often unpredictable, you start to plan your own responses with more ingenuity and patience. Epictetus, another Stoic voice, emphasized that it's not external events that upset us, but our judgments about them. If you feel powerless or anxious, it's often because you're fixated on something outside your influence. By shifting attention to your immediate sphere of action, your mental approach, your small but meaningful decisions, you become quietly powerful. Freed from the tyranny of external demands, you harness your energy for real change. Over time, your friends and family notice that you don't get derailed by every twist of fate. You calmly adapt, focusing on solutions within your grasp. This acceptance ironically gives you greater influence, because you exude a measured, strategic presence rather than a frantic or controlling vibe. Lesson 3. Build emotional self-mastery, one reaction at a time. The demands of modern life can provoke emotional turbulence, especially for women balancing multiple roles. Whether it's sudden workplace tension, a family argument, or a blow to your self-esteem, your first reaction might be to lash out or retreat. Stoicism suggests training yourself to pause, consider, and then respond. This transforms you from a passive reactor to an active decider. Suppose a colleague undermines you in a team meeting. You might naturally feel offended or anxious, ready to retort. Instead, a Stoic approach says, hold on, breathe. How do I want to handle this? You might calmly address the issue later, in private, explaining how you felt and setting boundaries. That composure isn't passivity, it's controlled strength. For centuries, Stoics recognized that the more chaotic the world around us gets, the more crucial it is to tame our inner climate. Marcus Aurelius advised, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Meaning, as adversity hits, practice noticing your emotions, naming them, and letting them pass without letting them fully hijack your thoughts. Over time, small exercises of emotional discipline accumulate. Imagine letting an annoying remark simply vanish in the air instead of ruminating on it all day. Or, if you're about to send a hasty, angry text, forcing yourself to wait 30 minutes, rereading it, and then deciding, actually, I'll rephrase or not send it at all. By forging these micro-habits, you become anchored in stable self-governance. That sense of calm self-possession radiates outward. People sense they can't easily push your buttons or provoke petty reactions. And you, in turn, find yourself more emotionally available for meaningful interactions instead of being drained by trifling irritations. Over time, you cultivate an enduring emotional stability that becomes a source of pride and a testament to your growth, like an internal muscle that, once flexed, lets you move gracefully through tension and chaos without losing your harmony. Lesson 4. Practice negative visualization for deeper gratitude. At first glance, negative visualization sounds depressing. Why deliberately imagine worst-case scenarios, like losing your home, your health, or the companionship of loved ones? But paradoxically, this Stoic exercise can sharpen your appreciation for what you do have. In a culture that often pushes you to want more and fear losing out, it reorients your mind toward cherishing the blessings currently in your life. For example, you might spend a few minutes mentally picturing life without a supportive friend. How would daily chats or hangouts be replaced by quiet loneliness? This mental scenario might sting, yet when you return to reality, you'll see that friend with fresh eyes. You become kinder, more present, less apt to take them for granted. This technique also tempers your anxiety about potential losses. By envisioning them in controlled bursts, you discover you're actually more resilient than you realized. The fear of, oh no, what if my finances dip, morphs into yes, that might happen, and I'd cope by downsizing or leaning on my resourcefulness. This calmer approach frees you from chronic worry. That sense of, I'll be okay even if adversity strikes, ironically, helps you approach each day with fuller appreciation, unclouded by constant dread. Over time, negative visualization becomes a path to gratitude. No longer do you hastily scroll past your blessings, ignoring the daily wonders. You see your warm bed, your morning cup of tea, your ability to read or walk or breathe easily, and realize these are not trifles. This shift from a deficit-based view to a gratitude-based view fosters a sense of calm contentment that's rare in a consumer-driven world. The emotional result? You find yourself less prone to envy, bitterness, or dissatisfaction. Negative visualization is not about courting misery. It's about ensuring you grasp life's treasures before they slip away. That, in turn, forms a bedrock for greater emotional balance, generosity, and personal resilience. Lesson 5. Focus on virtue, not perfection. A silent but significant trap for many women is chasing the mirage of perfection. Perfect looks, perfect relationships, perfect careers. Stoicism teaches a different path. Pursue virtue and progress rather than an impossible ideal. Instead of, I must never fail, the question becomes, how can I align my choices with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-restraint? This mindset prevents you from spiraling into self-condemnation whenever a slip-up occurs. Let's say you're trying to eat more mindfully, but end up indulging in an unplanned dessert. Rather than drowning in guilt or feeling like a failure, you can reflect on the moment calmly. I acted on impulse. Next time, I'll implement a short pause before grabbing a sweet. That's how I'll strengthen my self-restraint. By seeing mistakes as opportunities for moral growth, you remain steady, not overwhelmed by negativity. In relationships, aiming for virtue means focusing on honesty, empathy, and a willingness to see the other person's viewpoint. If conflict arises, you don't obsess over being right all the time. Instead, you try to respond with fairness, calm, and an openness to learning. The perfect partner doesn't exist, but a partner aiming to act virtuously stands out because they handle friction with dignity. Over time, this approach builds real intimacy. People sense you're not playing a game of facade or dominating them. You're simply striving to be your highest self. Another advantage is that stepping away from perfectionism frees you from crippling fear of failure or embarrassment. Fear no longer holds you captive because you're not out to impress anyone with an illusion of flawlessness. You're simply living each day with a focus on moral clarity. Ironically, this can lead to more success in practical terms because you're bold enough to try, to fail, and to adapt, unafraid of judgments. That's the quiet magnetism of Stoic virtue in action. Others see you as someone both strong and relatable, forging a path that leaves room for human error while never losing sight of your moral compass. Lesson 6. Lead with example rather than enforcing change. In many circles, you might find yourself wanting to improve others, help your partner adopt better habits, get your colleagues to communicate more respectfully, or encourage family members to handle finances more prudently. A Stoic approach advises a gentle route. Be the demonstration you wish to see. If you lecture or push, people often resist, feeling judged. But if you quietly model calm, consistent, wise behavior, your influence grows naturally. Suppose you're frustrated by a close friend who constantly complains but never acts. Instead of scolding them, you can approach challenges in your life with a can-do mindset, showing how resilience works in real time. Over months, they might notice. She faces obstacles without whining. She finds solutions. Perhaps I can too. That subtle shift arises because you lived your values, not hammered them into others. This approach can also lessen the friction you feel in everyday relationships. Instead of draining your energy in arguments about who should do what, your silent example speaks for itself. Let's say you want your household to reduce screen time. If you lead by reading a book in the living room quietly each night, turning off your phone, your family might grow curious. They see you calmer, more present. They might reduce their own screen use spontaneously. This Stoic concept is tied to the fact that real authority is earned, not demanded. People are more persuaded by consistent demonstration of virtue than by forced compliance. This approach also spares you from the disappointment of feeling your words fall on deaf ears. Even if they resist initially, seeds are planted. Over time, your unwavering example can sprout a shift in behavior. Meanwhile, you remain at peace, unburdened by the need to control others' actions or reactions. You simply control your own moral stance, letting your steadiness quietly guide them. This fosters deeper respect and synergy within the relationship, reflecting Stoicism's core, controlling your domain, your actions, your virtues, and letting others witness it and potentially follow suit. Lesson 7. Learn to forgive and release grudges. One of the heaviest emotional weights we carry is resentment, clinging to how someone offended or betrayed us. Stoic teaching says, forgiveness is a gift you give yourself because it liberates you from dwelling in bitterness. That doesn't mean condoning wrong actions. It means recognizing that you can't alter the past, but you can control whether you marinate in anger. Suppose a coworker took credit for your project idea. You could stew for weeks, letting it poison your mood, or you could calmly confront them, set boundaries for the future, and then let it go. By releasing the grudge, you reclaim mental space for more positive pursuits. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that everyone acts according to their understanding, illusions, or ignorance. Often, people who hurt you are operating from their own mental blind spots, not necessarily out of pure malice. This perspective can soften your anger. So even if you can't fully trust or befriend them again, you can empathize that they are, in their own way, flawed and struggling, just like you. This viewpoint fosters compassion over vengeance or long-term resentment. Another reason to cultivate forgiveness is the health factor. Chronic bitterness can affect your well-being, fueling stress or negative thought cycles. By letting grudges subside, you do your body and mind a kindness. Over time, people might notice that you handle conflicts or betrayals with surprising grace. They might even come to respect you more, or in some cases, apologize sincerely once they see you haven't escalated the tension. Forgiveness can be silently powerful. You're not plastering a fake smile or ignoring the offense. You're making a conscious choice to learn from the experience and move forward free from its emotional chains. That's the Stoic method, recognizing we can't undo what happened, but we can decide how to react, turning adversity into an avenue for moral growth and emotional release. Lesson 8. Practice simplicity in a complex world. In an age of incessant advertisements, social media feeds, and overcommitment, many women feel perpetually overwhelmed by stuff, both physical clutter and intangible obligations. Stoicism preaches a refreshing idea. Simplifying your life fosters mental clarity and frees energy for what truly matters. Practically, this might entail clearing out your closet, unsubscribing from pointless email lists, or pruning social engagements that don't bring real connection. The purpose isn't to achieve minimalism for show, but to focus on living with sincerity. Instead of drowning in a sea of trends, you keep the belongings and habits that align with your deeper priorities. Take your daily schedule, for instance. Perhaps you've said yes to too many volunteer roles, extra shifts at work, or social events that drain rather than enrich you. A Stoic approach suggests you gently step back, evaluating which commitments are purposeful and which ones only feed busyness. By doing so, you create breathing room, a chance to invest in your mental well-being, your personal development, or your genuine close relationships. Schedules that are jam-packed with superficial obligations often overshadow the activities that align with your life goals. Another angle is simplifying your emotional landscape. Are you engaging in superficial gossip or mindless reality show drama? Cutting back on these distractions allows you to direct your emotional bandwidth toward deeper pursuits, like reading philosophy, volunteering for a cause, or spending reflective time in nature. This shift isn't about guilt or asceticism. It's about regaining autonomy over how you spend your days. Over time, a simpler lifestyle becomes an anchor in a chaotic environment. People notice that you're not scurrying in frantic busyness, nor are you bored. You're present, mindful, and engaged with what you genuinely value. That calm presence can be contagious, silently inspiring others to also question whether they're drowning in unnecessary clutter. In short, embracing simplicity is a rebellious act of self-respect. You reclaim your time, mental space, and, ironically, find more joy in fewer but more meaningful things or commitments. Lesson 9. Learn to say no without excuses. Many women are socialized to be overly accommodating, always available, always eager to please. Yet taking on more than you can handle fosters burnout, resentment, and scatterbrained energy. Stoicism teaches that real freedom includes the right to say no firmly and respectfully, preserving your well-being and moral integrity. Imagine a friend consistently pushing you for favors that drain your time or finances. Out of guilt or fear of seeming rude, you keep saying yes. But deep down, you begin to resent them or yourself. A Stoic approach acknowledges that your resources, time, energy, money, are finite. If you exhaust them to make everyone else comfortable, you neglect your own responsibilities or rest. Overcommitment also prevents you from doing fewer things wholeheartedly. Saying no doesn't have to be harsh. You can do it calmly, such as, "I'm sorry, but I can't commit to that right now." Notice you don't need elaborate excuses. Stoics emphasize direct, genuine communication. You hold your boundary without feeling obligated to justify. If the other person reacts poorly, that's outside your control. You remain polite but unmoved. Each time you say no to a request that conflicts with your well-being, you say yes to something more aligned with your priorities, maybe self-care or a promise you made to a family member. Over time, that reduces your sense of overwhelm, letting you allocate energy to what truly matters. Another benefit is that your relationships often improve when you're not silently resentful or exhausted from overcommitting. True friends might respect your honesty because it shows you're taking your own life seriously. If someone tries to guilt-trip you, a Stoic approach is to calmly restate your position. You train them to see that your boundaries are not negotiable. That quiet confidence ironically fosters deeper trust and a more authentic connection, as people see you as someone who means what they say, who invests in quality interactions rather than forced compliance. Lesson 10. Choose courage instead of people-pleasing. A recurring dilemma for many women is navigating relationships or workplaces where they're expected to go along quietly. A Stoic view stands for courage. Sometimes, you must speak up, set boundaries, or stand your ground, even if it risks displeasing others. This is not about fostering conflict or rebellion for its own sake. It's about refusing to compromise your moral center or sense of justice. Suppose you notice a manager consistently undermining a junior coworker. The easy path is to remain silent, shrug, or think, "It's not my place to intervene." But if your conscience pricks you, a Stoic approach calls for boldness. You might politely confront the manager or support the coworker by documenting the issue. This courage clarifies your moral stance, though it may invite friction or risk. Yet Stoics like Seneca would argue that virtue is tested precisely when it's inconvenient or scary to act. The ephemeral discomfort of confrontation is overshadowed by the long-term reward of self-respect. Indeed, your willingness to do the right thing, even when it's not popular, often inspires those around you, who see that you're driven by principle rather than fear or flattery. Over time, that becomes part of your reputation, a woman who doesn't just fit in, but who stands up for what's right. Another domain is personal boundaries, e.g., if a partner, friend, or relative is pressuring you to do something that conflicts with your values. Courage means facing their disappointment or pushback, not from hostility, but from unwavering self-honesty. "I can't do this. It doesn't sit right with me." Such an act might feel daunting if you're used to people-pleasing, but it's precisely that step outside your comfort zone that helps you see your own resilience. Each time you choose courage over convenience, you fortify the moral fiber that sets Stoic women apart. Women who lead lives not shaped by external demands, but by their robust internal compass. Lesson 11. Honor your roles with attention and presence. Modern women often juggle multiple roles: mother, daughter, friend, partner, colleague, mentor, and more. Stoicism suggests we fully inhabit each role with mindful presence rather than splitting ourselves in anxious multitasking. That means if you're helping your child with homework, your phone is set aside, your mind not wandering to emails. If you're at work, you're focused on the task at hand, not ruminating about personal matters. This approach fosters depth in each relationship and activity. By devoting your attention wholeheartedly, you produce better outcomes and convey real respect. For instance, if your mother's asking for advice, you don't half listen while texting. Instead, You look her in the eye, truly hear her concerns, and respond with empathy. Over time, that pattern cements trust and closeness. Similarly, if a coworker needs a project partner, you approach the collaboration with thoroughness. While you might have a million tasks, you prioritize giving your best at the moment. This doesn't mean burning yourself out by saying yes to everything. You selectively commit, but when you do, you show up fully. The synergy here is that as you refine the skill of being fully present, it ironically frees you from the stress of partial engagement. Instead of half-living multiple tasks, you're fully living each one sequentially. People sense that you're not absent-minded or superficially involved. Thus, they respond with more depth as well. The Stoic angle is seeing each role as a temporary stewardship. You won't always be a caretaker for your elderly relative or the same coworker at your current job. By cherishing the ephemeral nature of each role, you bring sincerity and care into those interactions. That sincerity fosters personal growth and fosters genuine respect from those around you. Over time, you might notice you're less frazzled because your mind isn't constantly in two places. Each role is a chance to practice virtue, like patience, generosity, or resilience, in an intimate context. Lesson 12. Simply grow through adversity, one step at a time. Stoics constantly emphasize that adversity can be your greatest teacher. Yet that doesn't mean you must tackle every obstacle in grand leaps. Instead, approach adversity incrementally, focusing on just the next step. Suppose your marriage hits a rough patch. The problem might appear immense: communication breakdown, financial woes, emotional distance. A Stoic method is to break it down. Which specific issue can you address first? Maybe it's scheduling 20 minutes of honest talk each evening or meeting with a counselor. In that small, manageable chunk, you find clarity. Over time, repeated small victories accumulate into bigger transformations. Another example, you lose your job unexpectedly. The shock might tempt you to despair, but Stoicism urges calm reflection. What's within my control right now? Maybe it's updating my resume, reaching out to 3 contacts, or applying to 2 new positions daily. This sense of process not only helps you stay proactive, but also prevents emotional meltdown from the enormity of the crisis. The hidden gift of adversity is that each time you overcome a step, your resilience grows. People often see adversity as a sign of failure, but Stoics see it as a training ground for character. Instead of labeling yourself a victim of circumstance, you become an active participant in your story. Over time, you discover you can handle far more than you once believed. If someone wonders, how do you remain so composed? The answer lies in Stoic practice. You never let the entire mountain overwhelm you. You simply tackle it step by step, trusting your capacity to adapt. In addition, you realize that adversity shared can be adversity halved. Stoics recognize the value of supporting one another. Reaching out to friends or mentors for a listening ear or advice can lighten the burden, even if you're typically the strong, independent type. By practicing incremental resilience, you integrate adversity into your personal growth narrative, emerging each time with deeper empathy, wisdom, and an underlying sense of calm self-assurance. Lesson 13. Accept mortality and time's swift current. In a culture that either ignores death or depicts it sensationally, Stoicism gently reminds us that life is finite. Far from being morbid, memento mori, remember you must die, fosters urgency and appreciation for every day. Women often juggle so many roles and duties, they forget life is fleeting. By acknowledging mortality, you decide not to postpone living. If there's a dream you hold, like writing a book, traveling, or starting a meaningful project, Stoicism says, do it now. Don't wait for a future that might never arrive. Because you realize each passing week is a piece of your finite allotment. This perspective also encourages you to let go of grudges faster or skip petty arguments. Why waste precious hours on negativity when each day is irretrievable? Imagine you're upset over someone's minor slight. If you remind yourself, my life is short, I shouldn't let bitterness define my mood, you often find it easier to forgive or move on. That doesn't trivialize real issues, but it does rebalance them. Are you truly going to sacrifice your fleeting existence to hold on to anger about something you might not even recall in 10 years? Another layer is how you show affection. Knowing life is ephemeral, you might be more inclined to hug your parent a little longer, speak your gratitude to a friend, or schedule a dinner date you keep postponing. Instead of letting the weeks slip by on autopilot, you fill them with conscious presence. In addition, by acknowledging mortality, you avoid illusions that you have infinite time to fix mistakes or become who you want to be. This can galvanize you to start living your values right now. Over time, that subtle sense of life's brevity can lend a certain luminous quality to everything you do, whether it's cherishing mundane joys or stepping up to the big leaps you might have delayed out of fear. Accepting death, ironically, leads to living more vividly, forging a heart-level clarity that shapes each decision with meaning and sincerity. Lesson 14. Defuse conflict with calm and compassion. Often, unresolved tensions or painful arguments arise in relationships, whether romantic, familial, or professional. A Stoic approach advocates preemptive emotional neutrality. Pause your immediate reactions. Try to see the situation from a neutral vantage. This doesn't mean repressing your feelings or condoning wrongdoings. It's about preventing emotional hijacking that leads to unproductive fights. Suppose your spouse blames you for a money issue you both contributed to. A typical reaction might be snapping back. "You're even more responsible than me." However, Stoicism suggests you quiet that first impulse. Instead, you might say, "Let's calmly discuss how we got here and what we can do to prevent it next time." That measured tone sets a new dynamic. You show you're not burying the issue, but refusing to let your frustration overshadow constructive dialogue. Over multiple such instances, conflicts become less explosive. Another dimension is empathy, a trait sometimes overlooked in Stoic stereotypes. Being calm doesn't equate to being detached from others' experiences. Stoics actually recognize the value of acknowledging shared humanity. If a friend lashes out, stepping back to think, they may be in pain or scared, can shift your approach from retaliatory to compassionate. You might respond with something like, "I notice you seem stressed. Can we talk about what's really bothering you?" This gentle bridging reduces the battle lines. Admittedly, not everyone will reciprocate your calm approach immediately. Some might persist in negativity or drama. But even then, you maintain the upper hand of composure, and you can gracefully exit or set boundaries if needed. Over time, others will sense that their emotional chaos cannot easily rattle you, which ironically can disarm them. That's how Stoic calm can transform personal dynamics without big speeches. You don't claim moral superiority. You just show up with reason, empathy, and an unwavering presence that diffuses conflict like water on a small flame. Meanwhile, you protect your own peace, continuing to refine your Stoic discipline each time conflict arises. Lesson 15. Integrate Stoic wisdom into every role you play. Finally, the crowning lesson is that Stoicism is not a separate project, but a living philosophy you can weave into every aspect of your life. From waking up in the morning, mindful of your day's purpose, to resting at night, reflecting on how you upheld or deviated from your principles, Stoicism becomes your quiet but guiding companion. If you're a mother, you practice patience and empathy with your children, but also hold yourself and them accountable with a calm, consistent approach. If you're leading a team at work, you model integrity, fairness, and resilience in decision-making, never letting personal biases sabotage clarity. If you're caring for aging relatives, you show kindness and respect, acknowledging that your time with them is finite, so you remain present and gentle. The Stoic lens also helps you clarify big life directions, like whether to accept a promotion that might compromise your family time, or how to navigate a major relocation. Instead of chasing titles or external prestige, you weigh whether this aligns with your deeper calling. Will it help you cultivate more wisdom, serve the people around you, or develop your virtue? If yes, you proceed with determination. If no, you calmly let the opportunity pass. Over time, the synergy among these roles fosters a sense that you're truly living one integrated life, not disjointed segments. You become a woman who brings authenticity, composure, and moral fortitude wherever she goes, whether conversing with a grocery store clerk or speaking at a corporate event. Each role is an opportunity to refine your Stoic practice, an ongoing experiment in self-mastery, empathy, and unwavering principle. Indeed, the entire Stoic approach is about uniting reason with compassion, internal resilience with outward kindness, and personal ambition with an unwavering moral base. You carry an innate sense of leadership that doesn't require arrogance or force, but resonates from your stable, virtue-driven core. That's how Stoicism merges with womanhood in the fullest sense, by shaping not just the individual facets of your life, but by coloring every breath, decision, and interaction with unwavering clarity. These 15 lessons aren't about lofty abstraction, but practical, daily shifts in how you think, feel, and act. Imagine walking through life with an inner calm that can't be derailed by outside pressures, a sense of purpose that comes from virtuous self-rule, and relationships that deepen because you lead by silent, steady example. That's what Stoic wisdom offers you, a path to becoming not some perfect ideal, but your most authentic, resilient self. If these insights stirred something in you, remember to like and share, then subscribe for more journeys into this powerful philosophy. May your next step forward be guided by courage, virtue, and quiet confidence.